Hi, I'm Guion, and if you've been watching the Great Model Railway Challenge, you've probably seen this, our Jurassic Park layout, part of the semi-finals themed blockbusters. And among all the great features that we managed to cram into this layout, one of my favourites is this, the radio-controlled Land Rover tour vehicle. And in this video, I'd like to give you guys a bit of an insight of how we were able to make this. Let's get started. So here it is. It's one of my favourite parts of our Jurassic Park layout that we built on the show, and I absolutely loved it just because it was so intricate, so small, and really just fitted in with scale and everything. It wasn't. It looked the part, really, for what it was doing. So I originally got the idea for the Rail Land Rover back when Oxford released a model of one with Golden Valley models, and it was nice, but the problem was the wheels didn't really work. They weren't. It wasn't designed to run on the track anyway, but you couldn't roll it along the track because the wheels weren't engaged properly, and the flanges were next to. Well, there was hardly a flange on there at all. So I took it apart, got some N-gauge Lima wheels, and put them on instead, and I had a really nice working model with that. But I couldn't motorise it. So I thought, well, I'd like to try and make some sort of prototype of the Rail Land Rover. So I went and looked at O scale. I do a bit of O gauging myself, so it was something I could look into quite easily. So I got an O gauge model, equipped it with some wheels and some Bachmann wheels, and it was really good. It was easy to put a motor in there. I had lights. I had a little horn. It worked very well, so I was really pleased with that. But then I thought, well, I want to try and do a 4mm scale one, and with a few bits from China, some gears, gearboxes, etc., I managed to make my first 4mm scale Land Rover, but it didn't run really well. But I thought this is something really cool, and it would be really awesome to show it in on the show. So when they gave us the theme of blockbusters, I thought, well, that's the most appropriate thing to do with Jurassic Park and the tour vehicle, and that's where this comes in. Now, the vehicle, the last 4mm scale Land Rovers I'd done before this didn't really run very well. They ran really sporadically and would only perform well when running very fast, and it was silly, really. So I was looking into 1 in 75 scale radio at the time, and I'd come across a couple of cheap control boards that I thought I'd give a try, and I bought a few for a different project, so I thought we'll try it in this. And because it only has to drive it forwards and backwards, it's a relatively simple thing to do, and it doesn't rely on track power because we can use a battery on board. And that's what really led then to this final piece, which is just an Oxford die-cast London Fire Brigade Land Rover that's then been modified with some wheels from a 009 kit and gears and motors from various RC and mechanical pieces. So what we'll do now is we'll take it apart and we'll have a closer look inside and see how it works. So here is the model taken apart, and it's a relatively straightforward setup. We have this battery and power board. This came from a cheap toy from a B&M Bargains, and it allows me to take the power from the battery and utilize it on the model, as well as being able to charge it with a basic USB cable that came with the toy. Moving on, then we got the actual drive board, the receiver, and this is able to control 8 channels, which is quite a lot, to be honest. But I only need the one channel, which is the throttle. And then obviously, because it's intended for controlling a servo, and this is just a straight-on motor, we need a speed controller, or what's called, I think, is an ESC. And I managed to make up an ESC using an old servo. The servo electronics were taken out, and the pot, and basically the potential divider is used as a feedback to allow it to know its relative position. But because I've disconnected it, it constantly thinks it's in the central position, which means that if I pass the signal above or below the point, it just moves forwards and backwards respectively. And then from there, it's just connected straight to the motor. So it's a really simple, straightforward setup, and anyone could really do this. The soldering's a bit delicate on the small board here, but if you've got the time and the patience, I think anyone should be able to do something similar to this. And the parts aren't that expensive. I mean, this was £3 for the battery and the control unit, the power unit. The board was about £10. The servo electronics that we've modified, that was about £5, and the motor was about £1, and then the model itself was about £6–7. So in total, you're looking at just around £20 to make this. Obviously, not including the control unit, but if you're going to make a few of these, you only need one, so it doesn't really matter there. But what we'll do now is we'll just power it up, and we will put it back together and we'll run it on some track. So here we have some track. It's not connected to anything, it's just some plain old track, no power supply or anything like that. And we just put the vehicle on, and I've got our control unit here that we can then use to drive it. And we're just using the throttle control on it then to move it along. And you can see it is pretty much that simple. And just to continue the point, I mean, I can just take it off the track and run it back and forth along the track. And just move that along the cutting board like so. So, to be honest, the build is, relatively straightforward once you've got an idea of how to go about it. But it did take me some time to get to this stage. A few things I would note though is the wheels. The flanges on these wheels are really small, and it hasn't got. It means that when you're running this on track, it has a tendency to derail, as you may have seen in our episode. But if I could find some with some larger flanges, I would immediately replace them, because that was one of the problems, was trying to keep them on the track. But yeah, the vehicle fortunately performed perfectly during our demonstration, and I was really pleased with it. It's a fantastic bit of kit. I have tons of fun playing with things like this, and I hope to do more in the future because it's so much fun. So there we have it, the rail-guided tour vehicle that we used for our Jurassic Park themed layout for the Great Model Railway Challenge semi-final. I hope this video gives you guys at home an idea of how we do things like this, and gives you the encouragement to make things like this yourself, because while it's not that expensive and it is a little bit fiddly, I'm sure that you could achieve it yourself. I mean, when I first started looking at this, I didn't think it would really be possible, but sometimes you'll surprise yourself, so give it a try and you'll be surprised yourself. There's nothing else to say, but thank you for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe to the video, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.